Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here and I'm really excited for today's video. I put a question box up on my Instagram over the weekend asking for any and all of your triathlon related questions. I'm a total newbie to the sport. I did my first 2 races last summer. So I started with an Olympic distance triathlon. I did the Chicago triathlon and then I did my first Ironman 70.3 in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm currently training for 2 races. So my second 70.3, which will be in July, and then my first full Ironman, which is going to be in October. Over 100 questions, which honestly is so exciting because it means that you all are just as interested and passionate and curious about triathlon as I am. I've obviously grown to be incredibly passionate about, and I think it can be a really intimidating sport to get into because it's literally 3 sports in one. So I'm hoping, if nothing else from this video, it just feels more approachable and doable. That's kind of my objective here. I just want everyone to feel empowered to go after things that feel scary and new and just have the courage to be a beginner at something, even as an adult. Starting out with probably the most commonly asked question, which is how expensive is it? It is very expensive, but there are ways to make it less expensive, and I'm gonna give you some of those ways right now. So I think a lot of us, our exposure to the sport is purely through social media and influencers, which I'm part of the problem. Your only point of reference for triathlon, you probably think that everyone is riding these insane carbon frame bikes and you have to buy these super expensive bike kits and you have all these accoutrements for your bike, whatever it is. And I'm here to say that I did my first 70.3 basically bare bones. So I was using a bike that I bought off a coworker in college. It was his mom's road bike from the 90s. So aluminum frame bike, totally fine bike, got me from point A to point B, but it definitely wasn't a fast triathlon bike, didn't have aero bars, none of that jazz. Most of the stuff I was wearing was either bought off Amazon, the clearance rack at REI, or borrowed from a friend. The most expensive part, aside from cycling, obviously, the bike and the kit and all the stuff that comes with it, is the race entry fees are just really expensive. So a half Ironman race entry fee is around $500, and that doesn't include lodging and travel and all that and getting things at the race, right? You're probably gonna want a sweatshirt, which obviously you do because you need merch. And then a full Ironman is over $1,000. So it is a super expensive sport. And I think because there's so much gear involved, the more that you can borrow stuff or buy stuff secondhand, at least when you're initially getting into the sport, the better off you're gonna be. And I think that your first few races, at least for me, were just about proving to myself that I was physically capable of getting it done. And now that I know that I love this sport, it's something I want to do for a long period of time, I was able to justify and save and make investments in more expensive gear. So the really big investment that I made this year is that I bought a carbon frame bike, and I didn't even get the top of the line, and it was $5,000. It is insanely expensive. I bought a Canyon Aeroed SX7. I did a lot of research, got a lot of second opinions. It's ended up being the perfect bike for me, and I absolutely love it. I'm so happy with my purchase, but it is not something that I would recommend buying when you're going to do your first race. Please, please, please just get a used bike off Facebook Marketplace. That's essentially what I did, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world. Truth is, some people will have a $20,000 bike at the race, and some people will have a Facebook Marketplace bike at the race like I did. And you know what is really satisfying is when you're passed on the bike by someone who spent $20,000 on a bike and is using their aero bars, and then you get to pass them on the run. That's very satisfying. Okay, the next question is, how are you not just perpetually sore all the time? How do you balance it all? So I think it does help that I feel I have a few years of a pretty strong fitness base. I've been pretty consistently in some sort of training block, a marathon, half marathon training block for the better part of 3 years now. And so I wasn't coming into this at a zero. About triathlon that's really cool is that when you're training for a marathon, it is objectively it's really hard on your body, it's really hard on your joints. The volume that you're doing training for a triathlon is often higher mileage and time wise than a marathon, but swimming and biking are much lower impact on your body. So I think it's really just your body gets conditioned over time. You're not gonna start by doing 20 hours a week, it's something that you will build up to. And I think our bodies are just more adaptive than we think that they are. The other thing too that I've really learned is like, you need to actually rest on your rest day. When I was training for my 70.3, I was still like lifting or going to yoga or Pilates on my rest day. I don't do any of that now. I take it very seriously because I'm so committed to not injuring myself. And it's just like a mindset shift. Like rest is an essential part of your training routine. So I think just like taking that day really seriously is important. The other thing is fueling properly. Like, I think underfueling is one of the biggest causes of injury for people. Rest day, fueling properly, and then the last component for me is just keeping a really strong strength training routine. I'm clocking in at about, I would say like 3 hours a week right now of strength training. It's something that mentally is like super important for me because I really enjoy doing it, but also physically. I've had a lot of issues with my IT band in the past, and the more I focus on strength training, the more I'm able to keep my injuries at bay, and I just like feel better and healthier overall. So I think that can help too. I need a good 3 to 7 mile running shoe with good support. Suggestions? Yes, I have several shoes that I like. Start off here. These are the Cloud Hyper Monsters. I ran the New York City Marathon in these. I've done 2 marathon training blocks in them. They're really nice cushion shoe that still have a little bit of structure. So it's a little give, but still a little bit of structure. The next ones I love, that you guys of course know this, are the Brooks Glycerin Max. These are the Glycerin Max 2. So this is the newer version. I ran the St. Louis Marathon and PR'd that marathon actually in my Glycerin Max, which is kind of a random shoe for a marathon because it's not the lightest shoe on the planet, but it is incredibly comfortable. And as someone who was struggling a lot with IT band issues, I found it to be like a really forgiving shoe, which was nice. And then there are 2 Saucony shoes that I quite like. Okay. This is the Triumph 24. I would say this is cushioned, but a little bit firmer. Super nice shoe. And then these are the Paramount Maxes. I had never worn these before 2 weeks ago. I think 2 weeks ago was when I tried it for the first time. And I did my brick run on Sunday. So 10-mile brick run after a 45-mile bike in these, and they were insanely comfortable. And they're much lighter than you would think for kind of how big the profile of the shoe is. All right, the next question is, what do you wish you did more of during training? So I'm assuming this question is in reference to the first 70.3 I did last year. I didn't have an understanding of how to effectively train for the bike portion of the race. And what I mean by this is I was only focused on mileage per week. So let's say my only objective was that I was gonna bike 100 miles that week, which means I didn't really have any concern or focus around things like my power and the number of watts that I was pushing out on a bike. So this is something that I've learned from working with a coach, is that most of my biking sessions are programmed to be on my bike trainer, which is then attached to my Kicker Core, which is then attached to Zwift, which is this app that you can program in a number of watts that you have to hit for different intervals. What I'm realizing now is that what's more important than like the distance you're going is the power that you're able to generate. Because if you are able to get stronger and push out more power on the bike, it generally means that you're going to have a better run afterwards. And this is really how my coach has explained it to me, is he's like, in this training block leading up to your half Ironman, where like you have a strong running base, you have a pretty strong swimming base. So we're just gonna focus on getting your cycling fitness to be a lot higher, because then your run coming off the bike is just gonna be a lot faster. Particularly because the 70.3 I did in Madison was such a hilly ride. It did require a lot of power, and I don't necessarily feel like I kept super consistent power the whole time. Is, how did you decide on and find your tri coach? So I actually found my triathlon coach through one of my followers. She sent me a DM that I think it was her ex-boyfriend actually. She's like, I didn't work with him, but my ex-boyfriend did, and he had a great time on his Ironman. And his name is Joby, and his like training coaching business is called FC Endurance. So I think it's out of Orange County, California. So we've like had Zoom calls before. He programs all my weekly workouts into Training Peaks, and it's been such a positive experience. He just has this insane wealth of knowledge. He's, I think, world championship qualified like 5 times for Kona, which is insane to me. And something that really drew me to his, I guess, like methodology around coaching is that it's not just about programming workouts, but it's also kind of understanding the nuances of like how you take in fuel and use fuel during your race, and like what are areas you can be more efficient in. And yeah, I don't know. I just really liked his approach. I trust him a lot. And I guess that's like the biggest thing. And I know that the workouts he programs for me, like they push me and they're really challenging, but they're not like crippling me. And does that make sense? Like he's not putting so much of a load on me that I'm like unable to complete the workouts. Like I've been able to complete every single workout, even if I don't think I will at the beginning. He just has so much experience, and I feel just really inspired by him as a person too, which I think helps. I just have like an insane amount of respect for him, which I think is such an important thing when it comes to a coach. This is like an interesting question. So someone asks, what's training like for you after struggling with disordered eating? So I've been very open about this online. I've had troubles with binging, I've had troubles with anorexia, like you name it, I have struggled with food. And it's kind of interesting because last summer I really struggled with binging coming out of my 70.3. I felt like I was feeling pretty well when I was training for the race, and because of the volume of training I was doing every single week, like you can kind of just eat whatever you want because you're burning so many calories every single day. Like you don't have to think about food in like a calories in, calories out sort of way. Like you just kind of eat whatever you want and you're just trying to stay fueled for your workouts. But after I completed that race, I think it was a combination of things. Like I was going through some stuff in my personal life. I definitely had the post-race blues. And I also genuinely had an issue with binge eating afterwards. I think food, I don't want to say it was like necessarily strictly, what am I trying to say here? I don't know that it was a result of doing the 70.3. I think it was just like the timing was weird. I think I was struggling with binging when I was training, but because I was training at such a high volume, like I didn't see it reflected in my body, if that makes sense. And so then after I got out of the race, like I continued that behavior and it became very evident that it was an issue. And I worked with a coach, a macros coach. I know I talked to you guys about this over the winter, and then I worked with my friend who's a PT on a progressive overload. And I did a lot of things in like therapy to get in a better headspace with food. And my food is totally, like my relationship with food is like totally tied to my addictive tendencies. And I just feel like I'm never gonna be like, oh, it's not gonna rear its head again. But I feel like I've really come to a much more peaceful place with food over the last several months. And the thing that I really am appreciating about this go around of triathlon is I feel like my base knowledge of nutrition is like much better. I have a better idea of like what I need to fuel my body with. And I also just am totally seeing food as fuel. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but I know that in order to perform at a high level, I need to constantly be fueling my body. And I'm really focused on getting in like whole foods and just things that feel good. Like I know what feels good in my body and I know what doesn't feel good in my body. And I think I'm practicing like a lot of delayed gratification, if that makes sense. Like it used to be like I was just eating tons of processed food because I wanted like a quick hit of like sugar or whatever when I was really struggling back in the fall, just like with some personal stuff. So I think this go around of this training block, I just feel like I don't know. I feel like there's no way to talk about food without people having an opinion, so whatever. I just feel like I'm much more in control. I have a much better foundational understanding of like what my body needs to consume to feel good. And, you know, I'm focused on hitting my protein macros every day, which really, really helps me. I know that a lot of people don't count macros. It's something that changed my life for the better because it took a lot of like the thought out of food. And then I'm just making sure I'm getting in enough carbs before, during, and after my training sessions. And I just, yeah, I don't know. I feel very neutral towards food, and I see food as like a tool for my training and as fuel for me, which I think is really good. It's like not an emotional thing for me right now. All right, next question is, what gear do you need to get started? All right, off the top of my head, I'm gonna run through each one. So for swim, I would say you need a suit, a cap, and goggles. I have just these Speedo goggles that are really nice and they don't fog up. So I think getting ones that are like anti-fog is super important, and you will thank yourself for that. For the bike, guys, this one's a doozy. So you need a bike, you need a pair of really comfy cycling bibs. Cycling jersey is nice to have. You really only need one that you can, because the way that the cycling jersey works, that is like what makes it different than a regular t-shirt, right, is that it has like the pockets in the back that you can put things in to hold them, so you're not having to carry anything on the bike. But if you're like training in the winter, like, and it's colder, you could also just wear a jacket and you'll be fine if it has pockets that zip. You need a helmet. Helmet is so important. Do not skimp on getting a good helmet. Safety, like your brain, my dad always says, is your most expensive, most important asset, so you need to protect it. I would say clip-in pedals. These aren't like necessary, but they will make a huge difference when you're biking to get clip-in shoes and pedals. I promise you, it's kind of like nerve-wracking for the first ride or two, and then it's just total second nature. And then like a water bottle cage on your bike. Most will already have that. 2 water bottles that like fit in the bike cages, so you can put your electrolyte mixes in there. For the run, just like a comfortable pair of sneakers. And then for race day itself, I would say sometimes you will want a wetsuit. I was really lucky and just borrowed one from a friend. Wetsuit legality in a race is just contingent on the temperature of the water. Wetsuits can be really great, especially if you're like a little less confident in the water, because they give you buoyancy, so you're not gonna sink when you swim. And are also obviously great like if the water is cold. And then you want a tri-suit. So a tri-suit is different from like cycling bibs because it's something that you can wear during your swim, your bike, and your run. I feel like this is so silly. This is something I didn't realize though when I did my triathlon. I was like, oh, you wear the same outfit the entire time. I don't know why I thought you were gonna like do 3 different costume changes. So just getting one that's really comfortable and doesn't chafe is really important. And then on the note of chafing, getting some chamoy butter or some like Glide whatever anti-chafe stick, so important. And then I would say having sunglasses is important too. They're really helpful when you're on the bike and on the run. When you're cycling, like just crap flies in your eyes from the road all the time. So I just think it's like safer to have a pair of sunglasses. You don't need to get top of the line, just something that protects your eyes. And then obviously you're gonna want some nutrition too. So I really like Morton gels. I feel like they sit quite nicely in my stomach. And I like to mix them in a water bottle with like an electrolyte packet. And I took that on the bike. Also really like the Honey Stinger waffles, the BPN apple cinnamon gels. I can make a whole separate video about the fuel that I like to use, but getting fuel that's like really convenient and you've practiced with before race day is a great idea. All right, so next question I think is like more just like geared towards me and my issues specifically, but it says, addict related, do you feel like you work out so intensely to put your energy there? My ex was in recovery and he would get hyper focused on things and life just had to be so structured. This is a genuine question. Yeah, probably. I mean, I think I've reached a point in life where I've made peace with the fact that like, even though I'm sober, like I am still an addict at the end of the day. And there are different schools of thoughts on this, and people will be like, it's just as bad if you're putting this level of intensity into like other parts of your life. And I think what I've really come to appreciate is that my Achilles heel can also be my superpower. And so the thing that like absolutely ruined my life when I was drinking and was using alcohol as the focus of my life is, I think, what gives me such a huge edge in endurance sports in general. I just have the ability to like really focus and put my all behind something and just be incredibly committed to it. And so I think it like it kind of makes me appreciate that part of myself before. I think it's something that I like really resented and feared about myself, especially when I was first getting sober, was like just the intensity that I have that isn't normal. Like it's very much a trait of being an addict. Yeah, and I think like just triathlon has been like a really beautiful way for me personally to express that and tap into it and find, I don't know, like just a more positive outlet for it. So it's a totally fair question, and again, people have lots of opinions on this and whether it's right or wrong for me to like pursue things with this level of intensity, and whether that means I have good recovery or bad recovery. But all I know is that it doesn't hurt anyone. It makes me really happy, and it has improved my confidence and self-esteem in a way that nothing else has. So I'm just gonna keep kind of riding the wave. All right, last question I'm gonna answer in this video is, how do you start? Like literally how. I wanna do something hard and I'm not in the best shape. You just start. The quote that I love is, you don't learn to swim by reading about water. And I truly believe that. If you want to do something hard, you just have to start taking action towards it. And this could be, you know, if you're not in a place where you're ready to run yet, it could be getting up and walking for an hour every morning, and then doing walk-run intervals, and then eventually, you know, you can run. And I just think that in my personal experience, the greatest limitations of my life have come from myself. It's never been, you know, a product of what my body can or can't do. It's mostly up here. And obviously, like, I'm coming at a place of like extreme privilege where like I have an able body and I have the resources to do things. But I do believe that the greatest limits that I have experienced in my life have come from no one other than myself. And self-belief, it's still something I'm working on. And I feel like every single day that I am training and I'm working towards this goal, I'm slowly but surely building up my self-belief, but it will change your entire existence. Oh, I get emotional thinking about this, but I went from being somebody that would drink myself into oblivion every single day because I hated myself so much. I couldn't stand to look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't stand to read the text messages on my phone that I had sent the night before. And I drank because I was in such deep pain and I had such a deep, unabiding hatred for myself. And then I got sober by the grace of God, and I started to learn what accountability and building a sense of self felt like. And it was through just doing the next right thing, taking the next right action is what they say in the program. And that has been the story of my life. And for the past 3 years is that I am just deeply focused and committed to taking the next right action. And that doesn't mean I get it right 100% of the time. But what I really try to express to people that, you know, I see this stuff and they're like, I don't know, even if people that are close to me, they're like, I don't understand like your intensity around this. To me, it started with marathon training. And now, you know, it's doing triathlon, but like it gives me evidence every single day that I am not the person that I was. Oh my God, sorry. When I was drinking and I was so deep in my addiction for 8 years, and I would do anything and I would hurt anyone to get a fix. Doing this is a living amends to myself, to my younger self, more specifically, the person that I hated, that I put down, that I was so cruel to, that I drank to escape from. Yeah, it's just really important to me. It's so silly, sorry. And I know it's just a sport and I'm not even like that good at it. But it has given me an opportunity and the space to become someone that I can actually be proud of. And that's just not an experience that I ever thought, oh my God, my voice is cracking, like going through puberty. It's just never an experience that I thought I would have in my life. And when you wake up every morning wanting to end your life for a long period of time, and then you get to a point in life where you wake up every morning and you feel like you have a purpose. Yeah, I just can't, how could I not be grateful? And how could I not be so excited to share with everybody? I just want to encourage you to find something that makes you excited to get out of bed in the morning. And I want you to know that, like, even if you don't believe in yourself, like, I believe in you. I never would have believed that I could do this years ago. And I just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But I think you are so capable. That's all. I don't know what I'm saying at this point. Now I'm a puddle. I think you're so capable of doing amazing things. And I hope if you have days that you don't believe it, like the whole ethos behind my platform is that I want, like, my videos to be a place that you can come when you are struggling to believe in yourself, to know that, like, change is possible and transformation is possible, and you deserve to live a life that makes you feel fulfilled and happy, and to do things that are challenging and make you proud of yourself. So well, that took a turn. Happy triathlon Q&A. Somehow turned that into a cry fest, but okay, anyway. As always, I really love you guys. And you are just like so kind and generous in terms of like giving me your time and letting me have a platform. So I appreciate it. And I'll be making more videos where I'm like more composed, but yeah, it's just something I care a lot about. And it's not because it's a sport, it's because it's like the meaning for it is like so much deeper to me in my life. So, okay, I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.